I feel like I'm losing my mind.
Behind the dazzling lights of the stage, displaying a sweet smile and enchanting eyes, lies a story never spoken. Taehyung stands, sings, and laughs, but inside, a storm has long lingered. He never seeks sympathy, only tries to survive. But who would have thought that the suffering had been rooted for years? It wasn't from the outside that hurt, but from within. From the place that should have been his home, the place where he grew up and entrusted his heart. HYBE, once held in such high regard, turned out to hide another face behind the scenes. A face that silently oppressed, silenced, and alienated him. Taehyung never said a word. He chose silence because he was too big to embarrass himself. But his body spoke. His once shining eyes slowly held shadows. He continued to give to the world, even as his own heart began to erode from invisible wounds. Year after year, he stood like a solid wall. But behind that resilience, there were many sleepless nights, many stages he ascended breathlessly. He kept it all to himself, because he knew, where he was, weakness was considered a sin. HYBE saw, but chose to ignore it. They were too busy crunching numbers, chasing markets, and strategizing. They forgot that behind those numbers, there was a human being. A human being named Kim Taehyung, who had given so much, but was met with a biting silence. He was told to perform perfectly when his heart was in disarray. He was told to smile when his body begged for rest. There was no room for fatigue, no time to fall. He had to keep standing, because to them, Taehyung was an asset, not a human being. And amidst the silencing pressure, he could only write. Through music, he let out the screams he couldn't utter. Every verse of his songs held sorrow, yet wrapped in beautiful melodies. He spoke through art, because it was the only place he could be truly honest. The pain was invisible. But fans knew. They saw his gaze, which no longer sparkled as before. They heard the voice of his heart behind the songs he created. And slowly, everything began to unfold. That Taehyung had suffered for a long time, alone. HYBE remained silent. They remained deaf. They chose to put on a fake smile to the public, as if everything was fine. But Taehyung's pain couldn't be hidden forever. The suffocation penetrated the cameras, the stage, and ultimately reached the hearts of his fans. How painful it is when a place that should have been a refuge becomes a source of suffering. When someone who has given their life and soul is left to slowly burn. And Taehyung? He still endures. Because his heart is too soft to hate. He doesn't retaliate with anger. He doesn't expose anyone's faults. He simply continues to be himself, full of love, full of beauty, even when he himself is growing tired. And that's precisely where his true strength is born. They kept him silent. But the world listened. They tired him. But fans gave him strength. And from that long suffering, a new person was born, a stronger, deeper, and more beloved Taehyung. Now many people are starting to open their eyes. They see that behind all the visuals and popularity, there is a human being who has been hurt for far too long. Who continued to love, even when the system that protected him didn't love him back. He didn't leave, even though he could have. He stayed because he believed in love. Not love from management, but from the fans who faithfully embraced him in silent prayers. That love was what kept him standing, even though his body long wanted to collapse. And when everything was finally revealed, the public began to speak. They were angry, they demanded, but Taehyung just smiled. He didn't want the world to hate in his name. He just wanted the world to learn that the most beautiful thing is to be strong without hurting back. Night after night, he continued to sing. Not for popularity, but as a form of healing. He healed himself through his voice, and healed others through his lyrics. Taehyung transformed into the medicine he created from the poison he himself swallowed. The pain was still there. But now he was no longer alone. The world had seen it, and the world had embraced it. Taehyung was no longer just V from BTS. He was Taehyung, a man who chose to remain human in a world too busy being a machine. He taught us that suffering doesn't have to make us bitter. That wounds don't have to make us vengeful. He chose to keep loving. He chose to keep making music. He chose to keep believing, even though that trust had long been squandered. And precisely because of that, he is now more than just a star. He is a symbol of hope. That someone can be hurt, but still remain tender. That someone can be broken, but not lose their soul. He is not just an inspiration, he is the breath of life for many who have almost lost their way. The world now looks at him with a different respect. Not because of his good looks, not because of his popularity, but because of a courage so quiet yet so profound. Because he never tried to shine the brightest, he just tried to keep the light burning. Taehyung is not a victim. He is a survivor. He is not the main character in a sad story. He is a writer who now holds his own pen. He will write a new story, about freedom, about healing, and about love that never gives up. He has proven that love cannot be silenced by the system. That kindness cannot be stifled by neglect. He has transformed suffering into strength, and that strength now lives in the hearts of millions around the world. HYBE may try to suppress this story, but it was written with tears, with struggle, and with love. Nothing can erase it. Because Taehyung's name is no longer just a name in the entertainment world. He is a living story. And from all those wounds, Taehyung has chosen, not to be broken, but to become a light. He has endured more than the world knows, but he never stopped giving. And perhaps, that is what makes him immortal. Now his steps are no longer heavy. Not because the burden is gone, but because he has become accustomed to carrying it alone. Taehyung walks with a serenity that no one can imitate, serenity not because everything is easy, but because he has made peace with the wounds that will never heal. He used to wait for someone to come to his defense, to say, "We were wrong," or simply to hold his hand and say, "You're not alone." But that hand never came. So he learned to hold his own hand. He learned to be his own protector. And when the world began to celebrate his courage, he didn't ask for applause. He simply bowed his head, let the wind brush against his face, and then smiled a small smile. Because for Taehyung, victory isn't about cheers. It's about being able to remain good after being hurt so many times. Many said, "You should just leave HYBE." But Taehyung never lived with resentment. He didn't leave just because he was hurt. He stayed until his heart was at peace, until his soul was strong enough to truly choose, without pain, without burden. And when he finally chose a new path, the world didn't see his departure as an escape. They saw it as a liberation. He didn't run away, he flew. And those who had only watched from afar now accompanied him with prayers and love greater than ever. Taehyung never opened that wound for public consumption. He guarded it like a secret. But the wound was felt by anyone who loved him. Because he loved deeply, the pain was also deep. And anyone who had cared knew that this was no ordinary wound. Every laugh he once gave was now seen differently. Every smile he once gave felt like a desperate attempt to hide what he truly felt. And for that, people loved him even more strongly, because they realized he had given even when he was almost gone. The world began to learn from him. That we can smile without having to be happy. That we can stand tall even when our hearts are crumbling inside. That true strength isn't a loud shout, but a resilience that never asks to be seen. Taehyung has become more than just an artist. He's become a mirror for many. A mirror that says, "I too have felt inadequate. I too have been silenced. But I still choose not to be dark." He chose love, once again. Even though that love wasn't always found in the system he worked in. But he knew that true love comes from people who understand. From those who not only watch, but also feel. And to them, Taehyung gave his all. His days began to feel lighter. Not because the pain was gone, but because he knew how to embrace the wound. He no longer rejected it. He carried it with him, as a reminder, as strength, as fuel to keep going. He didn't want to prove anything to the world. He simply wanted to live in a way that didn't hurt him anymore. And from that simple intention, touching works, sincere conversations, and small gestures emerged that resonated deeply in the hearts of many. Many wonder when he will speak honestly about all this. But perhaps Taehyung will never say it. Perhaps he will simply continue to create. Because for him, honesty doesn't have to be in words. It can be present in music, in a smile, in a look. And through all these forms of honesty, the public begins to understand for themselves. They begin to piece together the pieces of the story with their hearts. And when they finally know it all, they don't hate the perpetrator, they only love the victim even more who stands with their head held high. Taehyung didn't set out to be a hero. But without realizing it, he became one. Because he has saved so many hearts, simply by showing that wounds don't have to make us turn into the people we hate. He proves that sacrificed kindness can still grow back. He proves that even after being betrayed, we can remain honest. He proves that true strength comes from a heart that has been broken but chooses not to retaliate with cruelty.
Everybody in the world blind. Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, no, this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose